And if we can, let's have this, as we have this conversation, let's have an additional conversation around the concept of leverage. Perfect. Because you've started your career, and then you've now spent a good part of your career getting rid of or giving up jobs, right? Okay, perfect. So tell us a little about yourself.
So I got into real estate right after college. I am born and raised here in Austin, and I graduated as a finance major in 2009. So my senior year financial classes were all about Lehman Brothers and the financial meltdown. It's very inspiring as a finance major trying to get a job. So I did a lot of interviews and did not get a job. So I got my real estate license. And I moved back to Austin. I was 21. My dad introduced me to Althea Osborne, who I had met when I was 3 years old. She used to sell his homes. He introduced me. He said, "You got to go meet her." And she changed my life. I went to her house last night and I wrote a little note in her book, and she doesn't even realize she changed my life. She handed me your book. She made me read it. She yelled at me and told me to read it. And
that would be her.
Yeah. And basically told me I'd be stupid not to come here. I read it, and it totally changed my perspective on what I could do in this business. It struck a chord with me, something that I had been yearning for probably most of my life that I can remember, the desire to build a business.
So it showed you that.
It showed me you can do that as a real estate agent. I hadn't seen that before. I'd seen the hotshot realtors in town that sold the lakefront properties, and they were, wore nice clothes and multimillionaires, or at least acted like they were.
Or had cool socks.
Yeah, or had cool socks. Exactly. Don't worry, I wore my LeBrons. I got them.
Keller Williams socks. Those
So I joined KW. I had no idea what I was doing. I floundered for the first 6 months in the business. I remember I was a kid. I would come into the office and...
You were a kid, you were 21, 22 years old.
I was 21 years old, and when I ran out of things to do, I would go home and just play video games. I did not have it figured out. I was ordering business cards and building websites and doing things that had no value to earning the income in my first couple years in the business. I was just lost. And so my productivity coach said, "You need to go to Bold." I told her, I will do anything, I'll do whatever it takes to succeed. I just need to know the path. I read the book, but I need the tangibles, right? What do I go and do now?
Yes.
And so she said, "Go to Bold." So I went to Bold, and that was the next defining thing that changed my career. So going to Bold taught me the tangibles, exactly what I needed to do on a daily basis. So it was like going to the gym. I started to build the habits. I started to build the consistency. I graduated from Bold with 13 listings, no money in my bank account, maybe $1,000, a couple $1,000. I hired a MAPS coach, which was the next defining moment in my career, which was having somebody on a regular basis that would actually walk me through my challenges and what I needed to do next, and helping me think through things for myself. So that was a defining moment for me. So my first full year in the business in 2010, I did about 100 grand in GCI, probably netted half of that, and it was great. I actually hired an assistant almost right away, part-time, because I didn't want to take a risk on full-time, so I found an agent in the market center who basically wasn't selling houses and was willing to come on part-time, and worked through that. And I basically hired that assistant and never did an administrative task again.
I was the rest of your career.
Oh, for the rest of my career. I was following you from every podcast you did, every mega camp and family reunion. I was paying attention, and you would say these black and white statements like, when you hire an admin, you never do another administrative task again. And I did that. I literally did that because I thought that's just what you do, right? And you said, you would say you lead generate 4 hours a day at a bare minimum, and I just went and did that. You joked around the first time that we talked, and you said, ignorance is bliss. And it is so true. The more I thought back about my first few years in the business, it is so true. Knowing what I know now, it's so difficult when you know everything to go back and actually just put your head down and do the work. And I didn't know what was ahead, and I just listened to what Diana would tell me and what you would say and all these things, and I just went for it. put my head down and went for it. So my first full year in the business, I had run the math. I was convinced that success is a math formula. The economic model, we broke it down in bold, and I knew that depending on the success I wanted to achieve in 1 year and in 5 years, and I built a 17-year plan to get to the 7th level. And I'd run the numbers, and I knew exactly what I needed to do on a daily basis to hit those numbers in 17 years. And so I set out to do that plan. And my first year, I lead generated for 4 hours a day, but it wasn't 4 hours of kind of lead generating. I mean, I was door shut, not talking to anybody, cell phone off, on the phones, literally talking to people I'd never talked to before in my life for 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, consistently, every single flipping day.
Yeah.
And what happened for me was it was actually a little bit depressing because at the end of that year, I sold 18 homes. 9 of them were my aunts and uncles and friends, and 9 of them were from my 4 hours a day for 250 days. And I was really frustrated, but I'd run the numbers, and ignorance is, I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna keep, I believe it's gonna work, and I have all these leads, I have all these people that I've talked to. I don't know their conversion rate, but I talked to them, and they wanna sell, and they've told me they'll meet with me, right? So I just kept going. And in my second year, I sold 65 homes, and 9 of them from my aunts and uncles and friends, and 55 from my prospecting efforts. So it started to come through.
Yeah, my first career in real estate, I went broke. I literally went broke. I ran out of money, went home at Christmas, and
doing the right things.
Oh man, my dad, I needed money. My dad said, well, how do I know you've been working? And I went out and got my card box, you know, my recipe cards with that was my data bank, according to Lance.
Yep.
And I went in and showed him the number of people I talked to, when they might think about buying and selling and all that. And my dad said, okay.
How was your pitch deck? You were raising money.
Yeah, and my dad said, I'll bet $500 on that. Now this is again 1979 still.
Yeah.
My dad said, I'll give you $500. But I didn't actually need the money, turned out. I didn't need it. All the leads, like they came through
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges that especially people in my generation have is that we're so used to instant gratification. With technology today, we can literally get everything on demand except a freaking listing closing, right? So it's one of the lessons I learned early on is delayed gratification. And it was just something that probably growing up, I think my mom for that. My mom, I went to Catholic school growing up, and there was a lot of delayed gratification built into my childhood and built into my early life. So that there were just some lessons.
You were trying to escape that and discovered that actually you can't.
It actually is a lesson that I want to go back and teach my kids. That delayed gratification is something to cherish and not always feel like you need everything instantly.
And sometimes you go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah.
Like
Sometimes you go backwards to go forwards.
Right?
When one door
And we don't
closes.
know that. When we're doing it, we don't even like it.
So it happened to me. So in 2012, my entire business fell apart. So we've talked about this before. I was the number one real estate agent in the city of Austin with $1 million in GCI at the time, and my assistant came in and quit. Left me a big long note saying, never wanted to talk to me again because I was a big jerk, and with like 3 pages of why, right?
By the way, I've had that happen too. Where the keys got thrown at me, by the way, on the way out the door.
Well, so it was a similar situation. Every single word of it, though, was right. And what I realized was I had, call it a diva problem, an anger management problem, a temper tantrum. I would jump to conclusions. It was
called an immaturity
Sounds like
problem.
me.
That's exactly what it is. It was an immaturity issue. And you know, another lesson I learned was about I read this book, or not a book, an article from Harvard Business Review on emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And one of the key factors is self-awareness. Another key factor, though, is self-regulation. And most agents that I interact with on a regular basis struggle with self-regulation.
Yeah.
And it's something to be learned. It's something you can work on. And an agent from my market center texted me the other day jokingly. He said, we need to do a MAPS class on anger management for top performers. He said, I think everybody would sign up.
Yeah. I'll sign up for that too.
Yeah. So you know, we're moving fast, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how to treat people, how to be a leader, how to actually care about other people, and not. I was so focused on my number. It was that you can have that focus and have a maturity level that treats everybody well. And I was immature. And
You don't have to take people's heads and put them on the grindstone.
Right.
Literally. Yeah. You can actually. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, you can have huge success and do it in a manner that people say thank you instead of yours.
That's exactly right. And so I learned a huge lesson. So he left, and a couple weeks later, my buyer's agent left, and then a couple weeks later, my other admin left. And so the three of them went and started a team outside KW. And I was left with, I think we had 100 clients, maybe 100 listings at the time, and I was committed to my 4 hours, so I had like 4 or 5 other hours in the day to deal with that.
So when I tell you that at one point in my career, 5 of my top 10 producers walked out, went to Remax, and then they came back and took every employee I had. So I walked into the office one day, I had 72 people, now I had 33 people, and I had no employees. I'm answering the phone, I'm managing the money. Now you know what
I know what it feels like.
Yep.
So I
really sucks.
I literally I would answer a call and 7 more would come through. It took me 8 or 9 days to respond, to even tell an agent that I got their offer. Much less, I mean, every agent hated my guts.
You were buried.
Oh, I was buried. So it was that year, 2012, second half of 2012 and 2013 were the most stressful years of it was the most stressful year of my life. And it was the most growing and stretching that I had ever done in my entire life.
Right.
My
Diamonds are created under pressure.
there was a Gene Rivers was a huge mentor of mine during that time, and I don't think if I didn't have him to have those conversations with on a literally daily basis, I don't know that I would have made it through the other side.
We're going to end the day with Gene on stage.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
That's awesome. He was a huge blessing in my life, and for my career, my family, my business. It literally was here, and we were able to take it back up.
What do you think the trick to that was? What do you think
Well, one of the things was, at first it was therapy. At first it was doing counseling sessions.
Yeah, been there.
And then after that, it was him helping me realize that there's building a business, which is career visioning, following models, and doing the right thing to go find the right people and build a business. And there's chaos management mode, and that's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
And so he helped me realize, like, you've got to assemble the troops, even if they're not the right troops. You've got to live in chaos management mode, and you've got to go master this process and learn how to build a business and lead people at a high level. And you have to do both at the same time. So he told me, he's like, it's gonna get good again, but it's gonna get a lot harder and a lot more stressful if you want to make it out the other end. So he prepared me for that as well. So I literally, for the next year and a half, had everybody who had a license, I was pulling them in and putting them in a seat and having them answer a phone, and it was a very, very, very stressful time in my life. But during that 12 to 18 months, I went to our Recruit Select class. I went to it 10 times. The entire week, I literally made it a commitment to master that process and to really, really internalize it. And that paid off huge. It paid off huge because during that time, even though I had massive turnover on my team, because I was just throwing people in spots, one by one, slowly, I was finding talent, solid talent, one by one, and getting a business with them.
So here was one of your ahas. One of your ahas is that no one succeeds alone. By the way, no one fails alone either. So when you've done all you can do, the level of success you're going to experience next is going to come from the people you associate with. And they're either going to take you down one path or they're going to take you up another path.
That's exactly right.
And the people matter. You know, so we'll make the statement of,
I hit a ceiling. I was at my ceiling at that moment. I was done.
and we all hit ceilings, and you're going to hit some more ceilings. I mean, we all hit ceilings all the way to death. When we hit ceilings, it's just the way it is, right? The statement that I made that you heard was take it 10 times. The way I tried to explain it is the first time you take it, I want you to think of it as if it's first grade, and I want you to go, if you can, I actually want you to go all the way and get a college degree in finding and working with the right people, which would mean you would have to take it, take it 10 times, and when you start teaching it, that's how you do it, isn't it?
Yep, that's exactly right.
When I was listening to your 2012 story, you were talking about, I mean, the best way to spend that was a year of great personal growth.
Oh, it was the most personal growth that's ever happened to me in that short period of time.
And I just think that we see it again and again. Adam talked about this, that a lot of times to attract the right people, you have to become the right person to attract those people. And that you always call, the first step of leadership is self-leadership. And we sometimes skip that step. We're so productive, we don't realize that we're not leading ourselves as well as we could.
That's right.
But the moment we make that switch, those people start showing up in our lives and you're able to recognize them.
John
You start attracting different people.
Yes.
Yeah. John Davis said it perfectly in career visioning. He talks about going out and getting empire builders, but he said, slow down. You can't just go out and get anybody. You're going to attract people that are like you, and you're going to attract people. You're going to attract people based on the vision that you put out there, and your commitment to that vision, and the way you act around that vision. And so, what does your vision look like, and what do you look like? And I looked in the mirror a couple of years ago, and I was 260 pounds.
Whoa.
You know, in my mind I had a vision, and yet I had some major problems in my life as a person. So I realized if I'm going to start attracting the talent that I want to attract, I've got to change a lot of things about my life, not just this one right here.
Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? In the end, the success of your business life will most likely parallel the success of your personal life.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. It's all just a mind game. It's all about,